Wajoki shana he chakna, wajunki shana. Hochangara he chara hinikari yiwi. Masania kwa hengaidena, he chara hai piwi. This is Kathy Wapipa Ishapi. I'm from the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, but for 23 years I've been resident of and a part of the Carry the Kettle tribe, the Carry the Kettle First Nation, located in southern Saskatchewan. I live there with my husband, Timmy Shappy, and together we have a huge combined family who make us feel like we're very well loved. I think the way that we can promote that and support it is by acknowledging that we all are on the same level. Just like I talked about before, when they're sitting in the cradle board, their eyes are on the same level as everybody in the circle. We all are on the same level. We all are learning. We all have a capacity to teach one another, but different people know different things. One of the things that when our grandma was gone from this earth, myself and all my cousins, we sat in the lodge, in the medicine lodge, and it was very hard. And to help one another, my cousin I was sitting beside, he was crying. And so I reached over and I was holding his hand. And our uncle came in to talk to us, and this is part of his job. And he said, "You think that you won't have these ways anymore, but you will. Because you know a little bit, you know a little bit, you know a little bit, and you know a little bit. And you'll put that knowledge together. Anytime we're called on, we can put that knowledge together so that we can continue on in our traditional ways." And that applies also just to our lives. As holistic people, we know that we don't know everything. And so we're always working in the different areas so that we can continue to develop, we can continue to grow. And if I don't know everything, then maybe someone I talk to will know something I need to hear that day. Or somebody else I talk to on another day, they'll know something that I need to hear that day. So just in sharing and in listening to one another, we're helping to build a community, and we're helping to build the community in a healthier way. I think that in all the teachers that I've worked with, the things that I found that make really successful teachers are their interest in the students. That is a passion of theirs. They want to know, how are these students thinking? Where are they coming from before they're even in the classroom? And then where are they going after that? And that passion for knowing the student and connecting to the student helps the student to become not just involved, which can be passive, but engaged, which requires the student to be actively a part of whatever's going on in the classroom. And that would also extend to even the smallest little people. We want them to be engaged, actively a part of what's going on in the classroom and the learning that's happening. We have come from a unique position as Indigenous people, having gone through the residential school experience. And that may not have been intentionally designed to do so, but it removed parents from their responsibilities and doing and learning parenting, and it removed children from witnessing people parenting in a good way. And so we're basically now in the phase of trying to rebuild our parenting skills. And again, it goes back to acknowledging that we don't have all the answers. We don't know how to do everything. We also have that additional stressor of, maybe I'm not the parent, maybe I'm the step parent. And as a step parent, I had to learn. And that's the main thing. You have to learn. You have to be willing to learn. And it really helps you be willing to learn if you don't have the unnecessary constraints of somebody saying, you're not doing it right. It's better to say, well, that was a good try for today. Tomorrow, maybe you can try this, or you can try that. So that builds in the flexibility of, if you're not doing it right, you are going to have another chance to try to do it in a way that might be more effective. And I hesitate to even say better. I just think a way that might be more effective. One of the things I taught my son was that I didn't want him to do everything that I did. I wanted him to choose the things I did that were good. But then in the other things, I wanted him to do better than me. Because we get locked into thinking, if you love somebody, then they are perfect. But they're not. Nobody is ever perfect. So the people we love, we look up to them and we're trying to do things like them just because they're our parents. But we can try to do things like them that they did that were good, but we can go beyond that and try to do things that maybe they would have done better had they had a chance to learn. And just understanding that and knowing that and letting other people know that, we're giving them also a chance to learn and to do things more effectively, just by being flexible, just by changing a little bit. Well, through the process of colonization, we really were led to follow specific, well-defined paths that are going to earn you an A if you do it exactly as you're prescribed to do it, or a B if you did it pretty good as it was prescribed. We don't have to think like that. We can think of each child as a unique individual who's progressing from this point of not knowing over here to this other point of growth. Not even really fully knowing, but just growth. And we can apply that to ourselves, and when we apply that to ourselves and forgive ourselves for not knowing everything or for not being perfect, then we'll be able to do that for children. So the wellness of the teacher is so vital to that process, because a teacher who can forgive themselves for not knowing everything, forgive themselves for being on the path to knowing, but maybe not fully there yet, then we can do that for our children. We won't always expect them to be perfect little human beings every moment. Well, that is a really interesting thing, because change comes from recognizing the things that you can do better. And I like to, in my first experience in the classroom, I would go to the class, and I'm not a teacher, but they wanted me to share life skills, and sometimes they'd listen to me, sometimes they wouldn't. And so I'd go home and I'd be like, I'm a failure, I can't do it, I'm horrible, I'm not gonna do it anymore, I'm not going back. And then my husband would just little by little talk me out of that. And the things that he did to talk me out of it were, you're not gonna say the same thing every day. You're asking me these questions today, and these are my answers today, but maybe tomorrow my answers are going to be bigger, better, or maybe they'll be worse. So each day is going to be new. That was one of the first things he told me. Each day is going to be new. And he was right, because I'd go to sleep, I'd wake up, and instead of resigning, I would think of new things I could do in the class and be creative. Be creative. So that would be the second thing. Be willing to be creative, because you are going to have to design different strategies for different things that happened. And so as I imagined how those different strategies would work in the classroom, I kind of got a little more confidence of, yes, I'm going to try. And that's the third thing, try. It's always the third thing, try. And when your end goal isn't perfect, but your end goal is, are we getting better? And you continue on that path, then you'll eventually get to where you want to be.
I guess what's sitting on top is, which is nothing, you might see it all the time, it takes courage to keep your medicine wheel rolling. And I'd like to thank Connie for her courage and truly being one that is there. However, it's always interesting how everybody else gets so unsettled when they see someone crying, and we have to go beyond that. People want to rush and get the Kleenex. It's all right. It's a gift that we have. And again, with little children, I have an island in the kitchen, and over the years I've seen my grandchildren come along and bump into it, and they'll scream, they'll do everything. Sometimes they kick it. You see an adult do the same thing. They hold it in, and you know they're as hurt as a little child. And I think that's one thing we need to give the continuum. Little children cry. We don't have to let go of that. We all need to be comfortable with that. And I think going back to that balance of and the continuum of children, we need to provide a safe environment. And I believe you had a pipe ceremony this morning, and I know the organization I came from had a pipe ceremony, and smudging of the room, cleansing of the room. I believe those are very strong for providing safe environment for, or places of learning or places of work and that type of thing. That's one way. The other thing that came up in my mind was the teaching of my elders, especially the ones from out of province, telling me how important it is to learn using all your senses. One of them used to tell me, you were brought up in a Western world in a nursing field and you know your compounds and whatever. But in the Indian world with the medicines, you listen to them, they talk to you, you see them, you taste them, you feel them, and that's how you know them, and you respect them. And all those teachings, there's always a parallel, and part of my role is building that bridge. And I think definitely part of the role of those that are involved in your program is, again, building that bridge. The children are coming from all different levels, and we need to build up from what they have, from their own reality. And it kept coming up in my mind. I guess looking way back, I look at how important it is for family members to be connected, like on boards, on teaching, bring them in or have some family days, because when you bring them in, they feel that sense of, because they too want that safety factor, my child is okay, instead of wondering what's behind that closed door that where they drop their child off. There needs to be an open door there. But also that child knows, mom and dad know where they're at, and maybe they did a painting, a coloring or whatever. They want to show mom and dad or show them Kokum and so, and that's that connecting there. And again, I can't say enough, I know Connie covered it too, is the positive language rather than discount language. I know one of the things we self-defeat ourselves when we say, I can't. When students would come to me in university and say, I'll try and get my essay in by Friday. I knew they weren't going to. They made me tired just how they were going to try. The ones that said, I'll have it, and I knew they would. However, it's a learned language almost. I can't do it, and once we say that, we don't give ourselves permission to do it. So we need to teach them, yes, you can. Teach them language that's positive. Give them permission to cry. Because crying, again, I come back to because it's, especially in this time of post-pandemic, I'm sure nobody is safe. We've lost so many great ones, very close. Like I said, I was praying for two last night. One passed away, and she was very, very close to me. She was one that would give me wild moose sandwiches and bannock fresh berries. When I went to her community, she always said, come and I'll feed you. And I think all of us have felt the loss of the loved ones, but don't always acknowledge, and it catches up to us. And one of the things about crying is it's one thing I personally can control, and so can everybody else. We learn early that we can stop our tears just by lifting our heads like this. You see people, it literally goes down. We don't have to do that because we make ourselves say, give yourself permission to cry. And if there's connects, fine. But if there isn't, that's also fine. I am not going to die. I've cried before and I will cry again. However, if somebody wants to, is not comfortable, I say that from a personal level. As a counselor, I was effective as a Western counselor. I could move you from the topic you're at to a path that was safe for me, not for you. However, in a traditional way, I allow you to go on your path because I have to be responsible for my own well-being. So my own health is what I'm responsible for, not yours. So I can allow you to go on your journey and definitely not to say, oh, I know exactly how you feel. How in the hell do I know? I don't. And yet that's the mistake we make. And if you start crying, I'll let you cry. But the minute I start making noises, you're going to cut off because I'm sending a subtle message. I'm not comfortable with it, don't do it. And I'll stop. So it's important to allow those little ones, like I say, they come with natural, and therefore allow them to be natural. Yes, then you teach them boundaries and that type of thing, but we learn a lot from them, and that personal growth is very exciting. But the personal health and wellness and balancing of the 4 quadrants within the medicine wheel, I feel is a personal responsibility for any person working with other groups of people.
But I think one of the things I like to see, like I said, is if you're going to work with children, anybody, if you're just getting into early childhood, I think one of the things I believe in is staying away from your addictions for at least 10 months. You know, and whenever you come in, because sometimes, even if you're working with children as a social worker, I always just voice, please leave your addictions aside, you know. And that's one of the things, because I am a recovering alcoholic. My last drunk, I always say, is November 10th, 1979 was my last drunk, and my boy was 9 years old and said, Mom, I don't like your drinking, you know. he had to say that only once, and I quit. I just, you know, I struggled. I really struggled, but I said recovery, talking with someone you trust about how you feel and what's going on in your life. Sometimes we feel like we're all there alone, even with the, going to school, like you feel like nobody's there for you. So at the campus, I always try to help them understand, you know, I listen. I can't help you, I can't tell you what to do, but I can listen. Because I said, I was told growing up as a child, you listen to what they say. Listen to the old people, listen to grandma, listen to auntie, listen to your uncle. So we always listen. Then he said, talk, listen, and then you can explain yourself. I try my best to. I have the 2 great grandkids, and like I said, I raise my grandsons, and I help them that their parents are working, and because we're, like I said, my grandson said, I'm so proud that you raised me, he said, to be a workaholic. I said, oh boy, I did something wrong. And he laughed and he said, no. And I believe that, because when I went as a young child, I left in 1966 to come to Saskatoon to go to school. And then, and I think about that and I say, you know, I'm 75 years old and I'm still working. And people always say, how come you still work? How come you're always helping people? I said, because my grandfather and my grandmother instilled that to us. You go work, be somebody, be proud of who you are, do it right, don't do it wrong, you know. Walk the roads, walk that good road, and he said there's always going to be one that's curvy, but always try to stay on that good run, you know. And I used to always wonder, well, what are they talking about? So now I understand, And I said, because I'm addiction free now, even like I said, my smoking was the hardest one. I just quit that in '97 when my mom came home. I raised my mom, and wasn't raised by her, but I ended up looking after her till she passed away. And she had TB, and so I just kind of, you know, looked after her till she passed away, and so then I quit. I said, I saw her, you know, with the oxygen, and I felt really, really, really bad. And I said, I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm going to put that aside. But I said, when we have a pipe ceremony or something, I try to respect that, and because it's part of who we are, and like we still have to use the medicines for us to continue to be where we are. Because if we don't use that spiritual part of us, we'll never be any place. As long as you balance the spirituality, the physical, and the mental and the emotion, if you balance all 4 concepts, we're going to be okay. But if we leave one aside, we'll never ever be okay. We will struggle with everyday life. And like I said, you know, it's sad when we see our young people in addictions that are struggling,
I know personally, when I walk into places like that, when I feel that sense of peace when I walk in, it gives me comfort and hope for the learning space. And I think we talked about not putting boundaries in the learning. Mm-hmm. And I think overall we also talked about holistic health. And it really puts me back to an elder over almost 50 years ago told me, I'm afeared, is what he said, that for the future generations, because he said we worked hard to survive. We were physically fit, healthy. The future that she was talking about, it's all, you press a button, you do this. He said, it works good, but you're not going to be a healthy race. So you need to build that exercise right from the time their babies. And I think that's so important, that part. And we can worry ourselves blue. It creates illness, it creates stress. Knowing that over 99% of our diseases are caused by stress, we need to do things that don't stress us. We need to have the places where we can unload that, or elders or counselors and people that we trust. We need to be able to express our emotions. We tend to keep them all in, and that is not good. So our little children, we need to give them permission to cry, to scream, to holler. It's all right, and it's helping them. None of this be a big boy, or big boys don't cry. Be a big girl, no, allow them to. You know. And most important, I guess, is to role model the prayer life. Like my children, like the phone call I got was 2 ladies that I was called to the hospital to go and pray for last night before I left. And one of them just passed away. But my grandchildren all knew, and one said, I'll come with you in a vehicle so I can pray too. And it was so cute. One of my grandsons brought school children to the table, different nationalities. And what he said is, okay, boys, we're going to pray because we're going to eat. That's how we roll in our family, but you have the right to roll whichever way you roll. I thought that's great, because we need to give them the identity to be proud of who they are. Thank you.
My goal I want to see is having men as EAs or early child learning, give them that father role in it, because we see a lot of our moms or our aunties working in those places, eh? But for me, I always wish there was a man working with the kids in school too, and that's what I really, really look forward. I want to see, and I keep telling. I told. We have 2 young men going into teacher, eh? And I said, you know what? I said, would like you to be a Head Start teacher or kindergarten teacher to teach the boys your role of a man. Be a good daddy, be a good uncle, be a good cousin, male cousin. You know, that's what my dream for EA would be, early child learning, that a man be a part of the circle. We need both in helping our growing up those children in school. That just came out of my thought. Just thinking, sitting here listening. I said, you know, we don't have many men out there to help that role. And my wish, my hope, and like she said, the hope and the love they give to that child will be more better. I think a lot of times we only see the women doing the child raising. I always tell my grandson, they have a boy and a girl, and I said, you take care of those children too. Not only mom, you're the daddy, you walk with her, you help them raise. And it's really, really good how they both work. I was watching them on Sunday, eh? We had one of my their auntie came from out of town, and she's non-native, eh? And I said, that's Cookham, or that's Kushi, or Unchi. So she's looking at me, and she said, Unchi? I said, that's, and she's non-native, and I tried to keep that relationship open, eh? I said, that's a grandma. In English, grandma, I said, or Kushi, or Unchi, or Cookham. She's looking at me. She went. I said, what are you going to do? That's grandma, she said, like you. So I was really kind of, because she's been with us for a good maybe 20 years she came in our life, and we've been really, really supportive with her. She's always our one that will do my windows way up high, do my fans way up in the high where I can't climb on the ledge. She likes to do those kind of work for me. We really cherish her very, very much. She's been a part of our life for a long time. So that's what I would like to see in the program, is having a male being a part of it. Maybe one day bring in a male to teach them the male role, or take all the boys fishing. Or I always say that, take both of them, take the boy and the girl, go show them how to. So we were talking, and the other boy said, well, let's go hunt gophers. And I said, no, I said, let's not hunt gophers. Let's go hunt rabbits. That'll be better for them. So you teach them those little roles, and I said, it's good.
I have some dreams for early childhood education, and one would be that it's not just for the people who work in daycare. It's not just for the people who are going to be caretakers of children. It should be for everybody. We don't know when we might be called on to be a parent. I actually never thought I would be a parent, and I didn't really plan for it. So when I had my son, I was really afraid I was going to be a horrible mother. But I was really lucky, because in our kinship ways, the people who needed to be there with me were there with me. My aunts were there for me. And just by their name, Chewy, it refers to the place that the spirit comes to the earth. And so those aunts have a special role in bringing life into this world. And once they bring it in, then they take special responsibility for those children who have come into the world, and they continue to guide them. So my aunt, as my second mother, she was so valuable to me that when she had cancer and we knew that she was going to pass away, I was really panicked, because I would only have one mother. I couldn't imagine what my life would be like with only one mother. And those are things that we can reconstitute them in early childhood education, because they are really important for the identity of the child, for their sense of belonging, creating a support system for them, and helping our families to continue to work together into the future. And that's a really important part of early child development that might be overlooked, is having all the family members a part of how that child grows up, how they learn and grow and develop. So I'd love to see that kind of collaboration in early childhood education. Well, this is a different way of doing things. When we're doing it on camera, it's going to be permanent, it's going to be absolute, there'll be no changes. And what if I didn't think of everything today? So I'll just tell people who are listening, this is what I'm thinking of today. This is what's in my mind and my heart today. And tomorrow, maybe something else. But the real thing is that each person who hears these words will hear it according to their experience. And they'll be able to build it into something if they choose to. That's going to be according to their life experience and according to their own skills and according to their creative mind. So I have to trust that the things I said today will be good and useful to somebody who is going to watch this video, even if I'm not there.